Billionaire Ridicules Black Waitress. You won't believe her amazing response that exposed him. Mia's heart raced as she approached the table, balancing a tray crammed with plates. Laughter and the sizzling of food filled the diner, a chaotic symphony that she had learned to navigate with grace. But as she caught sight of Mr. Hudson, the billionaire known for belittling the working class, a shiver coursed through her. She took a deep breath, recalling her grandmother's words. Strength comes from resilience. Little did Mia know that this one afternoon would flip her world upside down. She misheard his order, a simple burger, medium rare, and the moment she placed a well-done version in front of him, the atmosphere in the bustling diner shifted. He erupted, his voice booming as patrons turned their heads. "What kind of waitress doesn't know how to cook a burger? This is just embarrassing." His laughter sliced through the air like a knife. Mia wanted to sink into the ground, shame and anger pooling within her. How could he treat her like that? She fumbled with her own thoughts. Confront him. What if he retaliated and made her life harder? Protecting her son's future loomed above her like an ominous storm cloud. Days followed, and each time she returned to work, the memory of that interaction tainted her spirit. She wrestled with the mounting pressure of her dual roles, waitress and student, mother and aspiring entrepreneur. The feeling of self-doubt tightened around her like a vice. What would her grandmother say? Mia hugged her aspirations tightly, but the weight of Mr. Hudson's ridicule burdened her resolve. She needed to rise above it. She needed something more than this diner. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A few days later, Mr. Hudson strode back into the diner, this time scouting locals for a new venture. The tension was palpable in the air, a mixture of anticipation and dread. Mia felt it too, a tightening in her chest, a whisper of determination battling with fear. She watched him as he magnetized those around him, their laughter blending into an unbearable cacophony of self-doubt. How could he command such presence while she felt small and invisible? The question gnawed at her. Should she make a stand against the man who had humiliated her? Or would speaking out cost her, shattering the dreams she was clinging onto for Tyler's future? In secret, Mia consulted her old professor who honed in on her potential. They dove into long discussions that illuminated the path she had obscured with doubt. Each session peeled back layers of trepidation, igniting dormant ambitions. How could she let that man define her worth? The thought of her son, his future hinging on her choices, stoked her resolve. As the day of the pitch drew near, Mia's thoughts spiraled and her stomach churned at the prospect of facing Mr. Hudson again. Should she stand tall against his arrogance, or would she falter, letting her fear dictate her actions? The stakes grew higher with each tick of the clock. Just as she readied herself to confront the man who had tried to belittle her, her mind raced with both determination and uncertainty, each breath a reminder of the challenge that lay before her. The moment was closing in, and with it the potential to reshape her story. But what if she wasn't strong enough? Would she expose the truth, or would fear hold her back once more, leaving the path ahead an unnerving mystery? Mia stood outside the diner, the sunlight casting long shadows across the pavement, as if time itself was hesitating. Each breath felt heavier than the last, laden with the expectations that had built up inside her. She had spent countless nights pondering her future, envisioning herself breaking free from the confines of past humiliations. Yet here she was, tethered to the same diner, same memories, and the lingering weight of Mr. Hudson's ridicule. The day of her pitch loomed ahead. With her mind racing and heart pounding, she recalled the lessons learned from her old professor, the words echoing in her mind like a drumbeat of resolve. "You have the power to redefine yourself, Mia. Embrace it." Her throat constricted as the reality of that challenge settled in. There would be no room for fear today. She entered the diner, the familiar sights and sounds assaulting her senses. The waitress uniforms, the chatter of customers, and the sizzling grill all seemed to taunt her as she walked towards the section where Mr. Hudson was seated. Piecing together the mosaic of her thoughts, she reminded herself that this was not merely about a burger anymore. It was about reclaiming her voice, her identity. With each step, the laughter from his table crescendoed, compounding her anxiety. This man represented everything she had fought against, a reminder of her struggles, the condescension that sought to shadow her aspirations. But today, her resolve morphed into a quiet strength. She would stand her ground. The price of silence was too steep for her aspirations. She approached him, the seating arrangement optimized for maximum attention. The spotlight shone directly on her. "Mr. Hudson," she addressed him, a tremor of defiance mixing with adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Do you have a moment to discuss something?" He paused mid-sentence, a flicker of surprise hardening into amusement. "Is this an organized protest?" he quipped, the other diners chuckling slightly. "I'm not here to protest," Mia snapped back, surprising herself with the firmness of her voice. "I'm here to show you that in this environment, every person has a role that matters, and I won't let you undermine mine." The air thickened with tension as Mia's heart raced. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Her words hung in the air like a bright banner of defiance. She was stepping into uncharted waters, but with each second, she found clarity in her conviction. The fear that once whispered doubts had now shifted into a rallying cry for empowerment. "I'm not the only waitress in this diner," she continued, her voice steadying like the resolve in her heart. "Every one of us here has dreams just like you, and I'm not afraid to chase mine, despite what you might think." The laughter died down, replaced by a profound silence. Mr. Hudson's demeanor changed subtly, though his notorious smile lingered, a veneer of amusement veiling something deeper, something she could not yet grasp. Perhaps it was respect, or a spark of realization. But in that moment she realized this confrontation was more than just about him. It was about breaking her own chains and setting forth on the path she had envisioned. As she turned to leave, buoyed by a thrill she had never known before, Mia felt the weight of uncertainty start to lift. She was full of questions, but also brimming with possibilities. She could no longer dwell on the past that had sought to diminish her. The future was in her hands. In the ensuing chaos of returning to her duties, her mind raced with what had just transpired. She had confronted a titan, perhaps foolishly, but it was a step, a critical leap forward. What came next? Would Mr. Hudson view her words as a threat? Would he still try to wield his influence over her life? The stakes felt higher than ever as her heart pounded in her chest, ushering her into an unknown territory of consequences that could either build or break her dreams moving forward. The adrenaline surged through her as she wondered what tomorrow might hold. Would it amplify her courage or leave her vulnerable anew? The question lingered, eclipsed only by the stirring sense of victory she had begun to claim for her own. Mia sank into the rhythm of her shift, though each movement felt slightly elevated, buoyed by an unshakable sense of purpose. The diner buzzed with its usual all-consuming chaos, orders flying, laughter mingling with the clinking of silverware. But within her, something had transformed. She had stepped out from behind the shadows, shedding old, ghostly remnants of ridicule, each table she served now echoing the heartbeat of her burgeoning confidence. Every interaction became a canvas where she painted the new hues of her identity. As she approached the next table, a trio of college students animatedly debating their orders, she noticed how her voice carried with an unexpected assertiveness. "What can I get you all today?" she asked, the words slipping out more effortlessly than ever before. They looked at her, momentarily taken aback, perhaps surprised that a waitress could be anything beyond a mere order-taker. A young woman at the table, vibrant and outspoken, smiled brightly. "You seem different today. What's going on?" The question hung in the air like applause, and Mia hesitated. Did she wish to share her internal revolution with them? Yet there was a spark within her, a wish to articulate this change simply and truthfully. "I confronted someone today about how we're treated here. I think it's time for us to be seen for who we are." They looked at her in astonishment, their eyes wide. For a moment Mia basked in their engagement, and for the first time she felt as if she might be a part of a larger conversation, one about respect and self-worth. Feeling emboldened, she served the rest of her tables with an indomitable spirit, weaving in personal anecdotes about her dreams. The buzz of empathy enveloped her, generating ripples of connection that left her feeling not just like a waitress, but like an advocate for herself and her peers. Despite the cheer that infused her days, she sensed the ominous presence of Mr. Hudson at the back of her mind. Would he see her newfound voice as a challenge? Every glance in his direction ignited a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She had stirred the waters, but the repercussions were still uncertain, like a storm on the horizon. That evening, reflecting on her day during a solitary moment in the staff break room, Mia's thoughts drifted to her pitch. This would be her next significant step. She had made her intentions clear to Mr. Hudson, but she hadn't shared her true vision with anyone else. What did she want to achieve with her culinary skills? A restaurant, a food blog? Did she want to educate others on flavors and experiences neglected and overlooked? Excitement mixed with dread as she toyed with options, each stirring dreams she had tucked away. Her internal dialogue started beating like a drum, steady, urging her forward. She needed a plan, something ambitious yet attainable, something that validated her recent steps towards empowerment. How could she best serve her dreams and fulfill the potential that had lain dormant for so long? The next day dawned promising, carrying with it the weight of her resolve. At work, she decided to confront Mr. Hudson directly. It wasn't just about standing up this time. It was about taking ownership of her ideas, sharing her passions, and demanding recognition for what she believed to be her rightful place. As the diner buzzed to life, she rehearsed her pitch in her head, worried yet excited at how he might respond. Would he dismiss her dreams? Or could this renowned businessman actually see the potential she carried within her? Tomorrow was not just another day, it bore the weight of her aspirations. She strode forward, her mind igniting with the fervor that had built in her from the moment she had uttered her words to Mr. Hudson. Tomorrow would be the day she not only faced him, but also revealed her vision to a world that may not yet be ready for it. The moment of truth was around the corner, and she could feel the echoes of her fears and dreams, converging into something deeply personal. Would she break free for good, or would the shadows of her past attempts tug at her ankles one last time? The thought lingered as anticipation thickened in her chest. With the stakes now higher than ever, Mia was about to step into her next chapter, blind but burning with conviction. Mia stepped into the diner with the dawn, the anticipation electrifying the air around her. Today held the promise of change, a day to shatter the chains that had long restrained her. With resolve settling in her chest, she navigated first the bustling kitchen, and then the loud, familiar dining room. Each beep of the order screen and chorus of laughter felt like a countdown leading her toward a pivotal moment. As she prepped the coffee station, familiar dread loomed in her gut. Mr. Hudson would come in soon, more than likely with his condescending comments at the ready. In the whirlwind of her thoughts, she recalled each humiliating encounter, an oppressive montage that had until now dictated her behavior. But no longer. With each cup of coffee she poured, the realization dawned. This wasn't just about confronting him. It was about standing tall in her own truth. Focusing on her plan became her grounding force. Mia inhaled deeply, channeling the energy of her co-workers, each one a silent cheerleader in her mind. As she moved from table to table, she found herself embellishing her conversations with glimpses of her aspirations, her newly crafted identity as someone beyond mere service. She casually yet decisively spoke about her culinary dreams. "I want to start a blog explaining food in ways people can relate to," she said to a couple discussing their dessert options. They seemed intrigued. Hours passed, the busy lunch rush bringing a sense of normalcy. Yet the undercurrent of nervous excitement rippled within her. It was almost time. When Mr. Hudson finally made his appearance, the diner seemed to hush in his presence. His tailored suit contrasted sharply with the diner's simplistic charm, and his condescending smile felt like an accusation against her burgeoning resolve. "Good morning, Mia," he drawled, his eyes scanning her for weakness. "Ready for another day of serving?" "Actually, Mr. Hudson," she began, her voice steady as it echoed against the clamor around them. She took a step forward, reclaiming the narrative of her own story. "I'd like to discuss something that's quite crucial to my journey here." His brow arched, surprise flickering across his features. They stood in a small space of suspended time, the din of plates clattering and orders being shouted into the air a universe away. "Do you think you're ready to pitch me a plan?" he asked, feigning interest. Mia recognized the belittling tone immediately, but instead of feeling small, her confidence surged. "Yes, I am," she said, the words spilling out like a confident chef describing her signature dish. "I've been thinking about my own culinary blog, one that offers genuine insights into food and culture, aimed at people who often overlook the joys of dining. I believe we deserve to share these experiences far beyond the diner walls." Mia watched as emotion danced across Mr. Hudson's face, a mix of disbelief, curiosity, and something darker lurking beneath the surface. "Interesting proposition," he said, his voice laced with doubt, "but you must realize that it's a big leap from serving tables to influencing people's palates." She felt the weight of his doubt, a challenge woven into the statement. Yet Mia was undeterred. "And you must realize that people are more than just their job titles. Maybe it's time to redefine what a waiter can accomplish." Silence enveloped them, a hushed pulse thrumming in the air around them. The other staff members subtly shifted their attention, sensing the gravity of the encounter. In that moment, Mia wasn't just a waitress. She became a vessel carrying stories, resilience, and dreams. Everything he had ever belittled about her became fuel. Would he see the merit in her vision, or would he let his biases dictate the outcome? As she prepared for his inevitable response, the world around them seemed to blur, merging into a singular focus on the man before her. With the stakes climbing higher, Mia realized this was not just an opportunity, it was an awakening. What would he say? What would he do next? One question would shape her path and challenge everything she thought she knew about her place in this world. The moment hung precariously, waiting to tip. The silence stretched between them, like a taut wire, vibrating with the tension of unspoken words. Mia's heart raced but steadied itself in the knowledge that she had already begun the most profound journey of her life, speaking her truth. She could feel the weight of Mr. Hudson's gaze, and it pressed down on her, but this pressure ignited a resilience she hadn't known she possessed. Mr. Hudson cleared his throat, his expression settling into one of practiced mockery. "You truly believe a blog could bring any real change to the food industry?" Mia's resolve solidified. "Why not? The way we talk about food is fundamentally flawed. It's too exclusive and elitist. I want to break those walls down. People deserve to hear their stories, their genuine experiences with food, not just what a high-end chef deems worthy." She could see the flicker of annoyance in his eyes, but beneath that annoyance was something else. Perhaps he was beginning to understand the challenge she represented. "You're a waitress, Mia. Blogs are run by professionals, people who know what they're doing." She leveled her gaze at him. And what is a profession if not the culmination of experience, passion, and a willingness to learn? I've watched cooks struggle to plate their dreams in this diner. I've witnessed customers finding comfort in a simple meal. This isn't just about being a professional, it's reflection of life and culture. I can provide that perspective. Mia could feel her voice rising with every word she spoke, and with it came a realization. Every time she had muted herself before, she had surrendered a piece of her power. Mr. Hudson, the man who sought to belittle her, stood before her, and she was not afraid. He returned her unwavering stare, attempting to regain control of the exchange. "What makes you think you can gain an audience? You're forgettable. Just another waitress in a busy diner." She took a breath, grounding herself, and replied slowly, "It's not about becoming memorable in the way you think, Mr. Hudson. It's about being authentic. People remember honesty. They remember stories that resonate with them. I want to create a space where they feel seen." For a fleeting moment, she thought he might actually consider her ideas. His facade cracked, an eerie look of contemplation whispered across his face, but then he chuckled, the sound devoid of warmth. "Sure. Go ahead and dream, Mia. Just remember that dreaming doesn't pay the bills." As he turned away, Mia felt a rush of conflicting emotions swirling inside her. Disappointment, resentment, and something unexpected, empowerment. She could feel the imperative shift in her gut. Her dreams were now irrefutably tied to her identity. She would not allow Mr. Hudson's doubts to dictate her capability. Reeling from the confrontation, she moved back to the counter, where the espresso machine hissed and ceramic mugs clinked, restoring a sense of rhythm around her. Engaging with her co-workers, she shared snippets of her vision, invigorated by their enthusiasm. Each person's encouragement fortified her resolve and illuminated a hint of inspiration in their eyes. They weren't just co-workers, they were a chorus supporting her newfound path. Later that evening, as she emptied the tip jar, counting coins that represented more than just gratitude, Mia's resolve sharpened. The diner was more than a job. It was her launch pad. She envisioned her first blog post, the stories she would tell, the joy she would weave into every word. Mia sat down with her notebook ready to pen her first entry, and realized she was no longer just a waitress. She was an author in the making. Would she succeed or stumble in this uncharted territory? The uncertainty buzzed like electricity, urging her forward. But that night, as she closed up the diner to a dimmed atmosphere and the last relents of chatter faded away, another realization hit her. There would always be another Mr. Hudson, another gatekeeper standing in her way. But this time, she was prepared to confront them with her story, her truth. What barriers would she need to break next? The journey was far from over. Mia awoke to the first rays of dawn filtering through her window, casting a soft glow over the pages of her notebook, still open from the night before. The tangible weight of the decision she had made pressed on her, a mixture of exhilaration and fear. Today was the day. She would finally articulate her vision to the world. As she pulled on her uniform, each movement felt deliberate, every piece of fabric a reminder of the role she was shedding. At the diner, the usual clatter of breakfast preparations surrounded her. The familiar sights and sounds were comforting, but today they felt different. Familiar faces looked up from their stations, offering genuine smiles, as if aware of the shift within Mia. She carried with her a sense of purpose that resonated beyond her tasks as a waitress. Here, amid the hustle and the routine, she was starting to carve out space to grow. Mia busied herself with pouring coffee, her mind racing through the outlines of her first post. Every story had to start somewhere. Hers began with the people she served. She watched customers savor their meals, conversations blending into a symphony of laughter and sharing. Each subtle moment was ripe for the picking, filled with potential to weave into something beautiful. But as lunchtime approached, the enthusiasm faded slightly, replaced with anxiety. The voice of doubt crept in, just as Mr. Hudson's had. Who was she to narrate these experiences? A waitress? Just a cog in the vast machine of the food industry? Mia shook her head, dispelling the insecurities. This wasn't about her. It was about those she served, the unsung heroes behind the scenes, and the joy found in every humble bite. During a rare lull, she opened her notebook, pen hovering above the page. What story would resonate? The elderly couple celebrating their anniversary with 2 cheap burgers, or the single mother who found solace in her almond croissant during a hectic morning? So much to choose from. For now, she decided to focus on the diner itself, the heart of the community, and the mosaic of lives that convened there. But doubt still had its claws in her. The looming threat of criticism hovered like an unwanted shadow. What if Mr. Hudson was right? What if her perspective was invalid? She took a breath, trying to ground herself. This wasn't merely a blog. It was a mission. Her fingers gripped the pen tighter, and suddenly she felt it, a surge of clarity, as if the words were waiting to burst forth. Authenticity sells, she whispered to herself, recalling the moments she had witnessed as a waitress, thinking about people's connections to food and each other. The heartbeat of the diner pulsed beneath her, urging her to believe. She would write not just to share stories, but to illuminate lives. Mia's first post was going to be raw, a reflection not merely of the diner's cuisine, but of the bustling lives that intermingled around its tables. The stories would speak of joy, struggle, and resilience, much like her own. With a clear vision, she crafted her narrative, pouring her heart into every sentence. That evening, as she printed her blog entry, adrenaline coursed through her veins. However, anticipation turned to dread as she prepared to click publish. Just as she hovered over the button, the door swung open, and in walked Mr. Hudson, flanked by a couple of high-profile influencers from the food scene. Mia felt her heartbeat quicken. This would be an opportunity to test her resolve, to stand by her truth in front of someone who had been a gatekeeper. Heart-pounding, she glanced at the screen. Would they mock her work, or would they become the audience she longed for? The moment simmered with potential, thick with the weight of outcomes yet unknown. Every nerve in her body was heightened as she stood at the precipice, ready to share her voice with the world. Would the confrontation she'd anticipated alter her path drastically, or would it fortify her resolve in the face of scrutiny? Whatever the outcome, her moment was now. Mia's breath hung in the air as she observed Mr. Hudson glide across the diner, a potent blend of confidence and authority trailing behind him. His unmistakable presence sent a shiver down her spine, an unwelcome reminder of that heavy critique weighing on her resolve. She felt exposed under his sharp, scrutinizing gaze, as if he could sense the uncertainty radiating from her core. Instead of retreating into the shadows of self-doubt, however, she embraced the moment, galvanizing her determination. The door swung open, but it wasn't just Mr. Hudson who entered. He was flanked by glittering influencers, names that made headlines and ignited conversations. Their jovial laughter echoed around the space, drenching it with an aura of anticipation. Mia felt as if she were watching a scene in a movie, poised to be the subject of an unexpected twist. This was not just a random day at the diner. This was her proving ground. With her pulse quickening, she steeled herself behind the counter. Now wasn't the time to waver in her convictions. The blog post sat published on her phone, the words she had carefully woven together holding the very essence of her vision. It was raw, it was honest, It was the narrative that could reshape how people perceived not only her, but the very fabric of this place she called her second home. "Have you tried the apple pie here? It's a hidden gem," one influencer exclaimed cheerfully, only to be met with Mr. Hudson's dismissive smirk. "Apple pie? Please," he replied with a chuckle that echoed derision. "Let's focus on real culinary artistry, not whatever visually unimpressive slop is served here." Each word ignited a fire within Mia. She had spent enough nights watching these lives intersect, enough moments soaking in the stories of hardships and happiness. It was about time to confront the absurdity in a system that relegated the diner and its community to a mere afterthought. With a sudden surge of courage, Mia stepped out from behind the counter and approached the table where Mr. Hudson sat. The clattering of dishes and laughter started to fade, the energy in the room shifting as all eyes turned toward her. Heart racing, she drew closer, absorbing the astonished gasps and murmurs of surprise that followed. "Excuse me, but I think you're missing the point," she said, her voice steady despite the tempest within her. "People find sustenance and solace within these walls. It's not about pretentious cuisine, it's about connection. The flavors of life that emerge from shared moments." Stunned silence enveloped the diner, a weighty pause that seemed to freeze time itself. Mr. Hudson's reaction was one of palpable disbelief, quickly morphing into irritation as he opened his mouth to retort. But she pressed on, emboldened by the aching empathy she felt for the customers who had welcomed her into their stories. "I've seen love, hope, and resilience here, not slop, as you call it. It may not fit into your exclusive narrative, but I assure you, to us, it's everything," she continued, the words flowing from her like a stream breaking free from months of confinement. She realized the influencers were captivated, leaning in, as if the air had suddenly charged with electricity. For the first time, she sensed her voice had weight. It was a catalyst for change. She saw the bemusement on their faces shift to intrigue, a desire to uncover the lesser-known tales of the diner suddenly alive in their gaze. She turned to leave, the chorus of bustling life enveloping her again, only to be met by Mr. Hudson's quiet fury. "You've made a mistake, waitress. You don't know what you're talking about." Mia paused, her back still towards him. "Or perhaps it's you who don't understand the profound simplicity of our stories." The electric charge of her conviction left a resonating silence in her wake. As she returned to her duties, her heart began to settle. A ripple had been cast, a challenge laid bare. In seeking truth, she felt the shackles of doubt begin to loosen, and the vast expanse of possibility unfold. But her journey was just beginning, and the echoes of Mr. Hudson's mockery lingered. With the influences still present, Mia realized she had an opportunity to push boundaries further, to transform skepticism into curiosity. The question was, would she lean into this newfound strength to forge a narrative that could challenge perceptions? The next exciting installment was just waiting to unfold. A wave of energy pulsed through the diner, invigorating Mia with an adrenaline rush that felt foreign, yet liberating. She had sparked something in that moment, a challenge to the status quo that had laid dormant for too long. As she returned to the counter, her mind churned with thoughts of the influencers, their curiosity ignited by her defiance. They were not just celebrities, they were the beholders of narratives capable of reshaping perceptions. The grasp of self-doubt receded slightly as she embraced her unfolding role. The interactions from that moment lingered in her mind. What would those influencers make of her words? Would they see the diner's soul? Or would they fall back into the comfort of their preconceived notions? Her heart thudded in her chest as new questions formed. Would she be reduced to a mere footnote in a digital account, or could she elevate the diner into the spotlight it deserved? Each dish served felt like an opportunity to say more than just please and thank you. Determined to cultivate this momentum, Mia knew she had to take calculated risks. She took a deep breath and gathered her thoughts. The blog post she had published couldn't just sit stagnant. It needed a new life breathed into it. It needed to resonate. She visualized a series of stories, each story a dish, the meals reflecting the essence of the patrons who savored them. She needed to frame the narrative that intertwined their lives with the diner, a perspective few ever considered. As the busy afternoon turned into a bustling evening, Mia meticulously observed the interactions around her. Conversations flowed, and laughter erupted as plates of comfort food arrived at tables, each a vessel of unshared histories. She made mental notes, painful heartbreaks, joyous celebrations, and bitter-sweet transitions. If she crafted these anecdotes into captivating essays, perhaps the influencers would don a new lens to capture the hidden charms of her diner. Mr. Hudson's critical dismissal echoed like a heavy reminder floating above her convictions, but rather than letting it weigh her down, Mia resolved to use it as a catalyst. She couldn't allow one man's narrow vision to constrict her budding beliefs. She sensed that the key to her journey lay in flipping the table, metaphorically of course, and redefining what mattered most: authenticity, connection, and community. Each plate served shared more than just ingredients. They bore significance beyond culinary critique. With this new focus, Mia approached the first influencer, a tall woman with striking red hair, her presence commanding. "Excuse me," Mia said, her voice now laced with confidence. "I'd love to share some personal stories about our dishes. They carry the weight of the people who frequent this diner." Intrigued, the influencer leaned in. "Like what?" Mia's heart raced. Like the chili recipe handed down from a grandmother who escaped the Great Depression and turned every misfortune into flavor. And the pancakes. They were a father's promise every Sunday to a daughter who fought her way through school. She began weaving a tapestry of intertwining narratives, each story illustrating the deeper connections they held. As she spoke, she noticed the room gradually hushed, the influencers captivated by her sincerity. They leaned closer to hear every detail, intrigued by the humanity that she had termed ordinary. Mia felt invigorated. This interaction wasn't just about defending her home. It was about showcasing the artistry embedded in the everyday life surrounding her. However, doubt resurfaced as she rounded out the stories, a familiar internal struggle over whether her voice could truly make waves in an ocean dominated by mainstream narratives. Did she possess the necessary presence to make her stories stand out? Emboldened, she decided that the time had come to rise to the challenge. She could either be a silent observer or become the narrator of her own fate. With renewed determination, she was finally ready to harness her experiences and articulate the importance of what she loved most. But just as she began formulating her next steps, Mr. Hudson's voice cut through her reverie, sharp and unforgiving. "Are you still on this tangent? You truly believe the diner holds the weight to challenge what's actually out there?" Mia turned, a mix of doubt and defiance warring within her. The moment had arrived to face not just his mockery, but the very real possibility of transforming her narrative. In her heart, she knew the answer was waiting somewhere at the intersection of courage and clarity, but to seize it, she'd have to confront the skepticism head-on, with everything she had. What would it take to elevate the simple yet profound stories of her world to a platform that demanded attention? As the spark within her threatened to ignite an inferno, she understood deep down that the ultimate revelation was just on the horizon. Mia's resolve crystallized under the weight of Mr. Hudson's disdain. With her heart pounding, she found herself standing on the precipice of transformation. This was no longer just about the diner or its quirky roster of dishes. It was about stepping fully into her own narrative and claiming the power held within. As the other influencers watched with rapt attention, she sensed an opportunity reflecting back at her, one she dared not squander. "Actually," Mia began, her voice steady despite the shiver of uncertainty coiling in her stomach. "I believe we define the weight of our existence through the stories we choose to tell. The diner may appear simple from the outside, but it's woven into the fabric of this community." Her gaze locked onto Mr. Hudson's, daring him to dismiss her now. The air crackled with tension, the other influences shifting, intrigued by her boldness, a sharp contrast to the polite subservience they expected. Take the pie, for instance. It's not just dessert, it's what Grandma Betty served after her hardest days. The kids used to fight over who would get the last slice. Every spatula of cream and every crumb carries a piece of our history. Her passion flowed in earnest, resonating with those who had gathered for a light dinner and social media update, sinking deeper into the stories of connection. In that moment, Mia took a step back and took a breath, observing their reactions. Eyes softened, smiles emerged. She was no longer merely a waitress. She was a storyteller, a curator of experiences that had never seen the light of perception. The thought imbued her with strength. However, pushing back against Mr. Hudson's conviction felt like navigating a minefield. Deep down, she grappled with a question that twisted in her gut. What if her voice fell short? There were influences entrenched in opulence and polished narratives. Who was she to make her stories resonate alongside theirs? Disregarding the inner voice of doubt, Mia pressed on, fueled by defiance. "Since you're curious about what's actually out there, let's talk about truth. These plates symbolize resilience. That chili, each bite, tells of tenacity in tough times. Just open your mind and give them a seat at the table." The lingering silence coiled around her, thick enough to squeeze. She could hear the soft clutters of silverware stop, conversations held in suspense. She had crossed a threshold, and with it came the exhilarating rush of fighting for a voice that already mattered. As Mr. Hudson opened his mouth, she braced herself for another dismissal, but his response surprised her, laced with caution. "You really believe that people want to hear those stories?" Mia inhaled sharply. The question could spiral into self-doubt if she allowed it. "No," she said, drawing strength from her perspective. "I believe they need to hear them. Often the most profound narratives live in the ordinary, echoing the experiences that humans share." With that declaration made, she felt a shift. The influences began to murmur among themselves, words of intrigue rippling through the gathering. A seed of curiosity had been planted, yet Mia was aware the battle wasn't over. This was about more than her story. It was a call for authenticity, a movement for acknowledgement. Compelled by adrenaline, she considered her next act. Perhaps it was time to gather the stories of the patrons, weaving interviews and life lessons into a blog series or even a short film. Inspiration was bubbling beneath the surface, waiting for her to breathe life into it. But first, she needed clarity and direction, guidance on how to tell the stories without losing their essence. If the influencers truly engaged with her vision, perhaps there would be the chance to transform her diner from a simple eatery into a bastion of culture and memory. Then the door swung open, and a sudden chill swept through the diner. A newcomer stepped inside. Mia's heart raced again, sensing an energy that felt both electric and predatory. A figure cloaked in mystery and confidence, their presence demanding attention as if they had come to upend everything. Just as Mia mustered the courage to approach, she caught Mr. Hudson's amused smirk from the corner of her eye. An unsaid challenge. Would she stand her ground or shrink back into self-doubt? The stakes climbed higher, emerging not merely from her interaction with the influencers, but from the unfolding narrative that awaited her. Now, with the spark of possibility igniting a path forward, Mia faced not one, but two pivotal confrontations that could redefine her journey. How would she navigate this new intersection of opportunity and doubt? Mia stood at the crossroads of fear and opportunity, feeling the electric buzz of her earlier confrontation with Mr. Hudson still coursing through her veins. The presence of the new figure in the diner added a layer of intensity to an already pivotal moment. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself, recalling the numerous transformations she had undergone in the past weeks. Each moment spent at the diner had sculpted her not merely into a waitress, but into an empowered storyteller ready to redefine her role in the world. While Mr. Hudson lingered nearby wearing a mask of false superiority, Mia felt a newfound strength rising within her. She had something to offer, something that mattered. The newcomer, a confident woman with a striking appearance, approached her. Mia sensed that this was not merely a casual diner patron. She was a formidable figure, perhaps another influencer, or someone who could help elevate Mia's aspirations beyond the humdrum of daily orders. "Hello there," the woman greeted, her voice melodic. "I've been hearing some interesting conversations from this side of the diner. Your passion is palpable. What's your story?" Mia felt a rush of warmth flood through her. This was the moment she had envisioned. "I'm Mia, I work here, but I want more than just this job. I want to create an online space where ordinary stories like the ones found here can be shared and celebrated. Stories that resonate and remind us of our humanity." As she spoke, something shifted. The influencers who had once sought only pristine narratives were now leaning in, intrigued by Mia's authentic voice. The walls that had once confined her began to crumble. She noticed Mr. Hudson bristle at her confidence, yet her focus remained unwavering. The woman raised an eyebrow, impressed. "That's quite the ambition. Have you published anything yet?" Mia nodded, her throat tightening with excitement and nervousness. "I recently wrote a blog post that captures the essence of our diner, along with the stories of those who come here. My aim is to highlight the connections we form over meals, the joy, the struggle, the spirit. It's about so much more than food." The woman's eyes sparkled with interest, and she glanced toward Mr. Hudson. "And are those stories what led you to confront him earlier? I have a feeling you're not just a waitress, are you?" "No," Mia responded, her determination coming to the fore. "I'm more than what others might see. I'm at the helm of my own narrative now." As she spoke, she felt the weight of her resolve solidifying like steel. She had conquered the doubt that had long held her captive. Every embarrassing moment endured, every cutting remark from Mr. Hudson, had only served as fuel, prompting an insatiable urge to prove herself. The table of influencers leaned closer, captivated. Mia seized the moment. "Imagine if we could merge our voices, those of us who stand on the fringes with real stories to tell. We can reshape taste and redefine what authenticity looks like in the food world." The atmosphere shifted palpably. A chorus of interest began brewing at the table. "I think there's something incredibly powerful in what you're saying," one of the influencers jumped in. "We're often drawn to the glossy, curated spaces. But what about the heart of a community, the living, breathing narratives of everyday life?" Mia's heart swelled. This was validation, recognition that her voice could resonate beyond her immediate circle. This conversation could birth a movement, transforming not only her own journey, but that of countless others. The room buzzed with possibilities as the strangers around the table began discussing ways to collaborate, potentially highlighting local eateries and their stories through a series of social media features or a mini documentary. Mia felt excitement dance in her chest. In that moment, she quietly marveled at her growth. Just a short time ago, she stood timidly before Mr. Hudson, overwhelmed by self-doubt. Now, she was ready to face any challenge. Her voice was no longer fragile. It resonated with a newfound confidence and authenticity. Mr. Hudson's bemused expression only spurred her on. She had risen above his derision and was embracing the identity she had been forging in the crucible of experience and clarity. The table was now a launch pad for her dreams, a platform filled with potential. As the evening unfolded, plans were made and laughter echoed throughout the diner. Mia's story found validation not only within herself, but among the people engaged around her. She left the diner that night with a heart full of hope and concrete plans for the future. Within the days that followed, Mia became more than just a waitress. She became a force of change, a beacon of empowerment for others like her. Her blog flourished, her voice echoing through the digital realm. She had challenged the stigma of her role and demonstrated that every individual, no matter their station, could rewrite their own narrative. Mia had crossed a threshold, a self-determinative jump from mere survival to genuine thriving. She could now envision the future she craved, one filled with purpose and fulfillment, cemented by the recognition of her worth. In the exhilarating space of uncertainty, she had indeed proven that strength constitutes finding your story amidst mundane chaos. This was her time, not just to speak, but to be heard. The chains of past ridicule had shattered, leaving behind not echoes of failure, but a stirring call to action that would launch her into the horizons of her wildest dreams. Now, as she looked forward, her heart brimming with anticipation, she realized that she was no longer the person who cowered under the weight of derision. She was flourishing, and with each new story told, her legacy was sealed. A testimony to resilience, authenticity, and the transformative power of owning one's truth. Mia's journey had only just begun, but with every step forward, she felt the glorious pull of her ambitions driving her onwards into a future far brighter than she could have ever imagined. You need to subscribe now. This is your chance to witness transformational stories that inspire. Leave a like now. Your support is essential to keep these narratives alive and thriving. Comment your thoughts and reactions to this powerful conclusion. We want to hear your perspectives. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey unfold. Don't wait even one more second.